There's a 19-year-old college sophomore, averaging 89, 92. Has hit 94, so he's got a lot of power. Big thing is lack of consistency with control. So I wanted to look at, just watch him throw a couple times here and go back and look at a couple of things that could be leading to some control issues. First thing I notice is we see the head tilted off the side. And again, this is a video off of a video, so it's a little fuzzy, but we can see the head tilting right there. So we know if we want to see what's going on with the head, we're going to first look at the feet. So let's back up a little bit, see if we see anything going on with the lower half that would cause problems with the head having to tilt out of the way. Remember, we want to throw the baseball with our eyes level in order to be consistent throwing strikes. So if we're ending up in this position, let's take a look at the feet. What we see going into foot plant right there, we see a complete dead backside. Backside just kind of stuck in the ground even as we get into landing here. What that tells us is that we have the front hip taking control of opening the hips, or at least trying to. So that's front hip dominance and getting into this landing position. The back hip has provided no rotation whatsoever. So all we're doing is allowing the front hip to open up, getting us out of sequence. Now we see as we move up the chain, the hips should have gone there, but they didn't. Now we have to finish this weight transfer, and as you can see, we get into landing where the hip should have been rotated, and we're going to see a weight shift right there. So without the back hip's involvement, just a front hip opening, kind of like the swinging gait, now we see this weight shift without any back hip rotation. So what back hip rotation there is simply coming around with the shoulder, with the throwing arm. It didn't precede it. So as we know with the kinetic chain, we want to go hips, hips, then trunk, then shoulders, and then arm and hand, so forth. What we see with Zach, because we're allowing that front hip to open up, the back hip, backside's just dragging through. The only way he can compensate by going out of sequence is to use the upper body to pull the head out of the way. And again, throwing the ball 90 miles an hour, the kid's doing a lot of things right. He's moving down the mound well from a speed sense, but by going out of sequence, he's really destroying a lot of his opportunity to throw consistent strikes. So when we get into throwing consistent breaking balls, consistent off-speed pitches, or much less commanding the fastball, if we're not consistently getting to that eyes level at release, it's just a crapshoot whether or not we're going to get there. So with Zach, if we want to work on fixing this head issue, we need to go back to this point in the delivery as we're right here, rather than letting the front hip take over at this point. This is where the back hip needs to go ahead and start rotating. We'll clean up a little bit of those arm issues. We get a little off timing right there as well. When we look at the arm action working together, see the front side starting to go a little early, and a lot of that's just to do with the timing inconsistency of the kinetic chain. So from this point right here, we need to work on Zach being aware of back hip beginning its rotation and delivering the front hip into landing, as opposed to letting the front hip swing us open and letting the back hip react. This is very interesting when we think about hips rotating. I was watching this all the way through, and watch how after release, now we're going to see the hips actually rotate. Right there. Now we've rotated through. This should have happened much earlier in the delivery in order to work the chain in sequence, but we see basically Zach's just out of sequence. So anyway, with Zach, we want to work on back hip firing open a little sooner, being aware of what that feels like to let the back hip initiate the entire kinetic chain.